And in the next fight, you got Malik Lewis taking on Trevor Peek. Two guys that are very hyped up, but I would say the hype is definitely on the Trevor Peek side. This guy is coming off a first round KO win over Worthy, which is a pretty good win, especially if you are 5-0 in your career. And debuting at 155. Trevor Peek, man, his whole career has been taking place at 170 for the most part. He fought Chris Mims at 170. He fought Ben Brewer at 180 pounds. He fought David Robbins at 170, Warren Smith at 170, and then Worthy at 155. And now he's taking on Malik Lewis at 155. So Trevor Peek, not a stranger at fighting guys that are taller than him. He does stand at 5'9", which isn't the tallest for 155, considering the fact that his opponent Malik Lewis is 6 foot. But if you look at the Worthy win, I do rate this win a little bit higher than a lot of people will, because he was on a 2-fight win streak, not over the greatest competition, but a 2-fight win streak since losing and getting cut from the UFC. But you kind of got to look at it like this, man. Who hasn't knocked out Worthy? You know, Worthy's got 10 losses in his career, 9 of them by KO, man. This guy, hopefully he doesn't have like constant headaches, if you know what I mean. But it's a good win. But it's not like, oh my god, like that's like a life-changing win. Like Worthy, yeah, he just got knocked out so many times in his career. Trevor Peek doing it is impressive, it really is, because Worthy did have a run in the UFC. But it's not like, oh my god, like that's such a crazy, like, good win, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to downplay that. That's a great win. Malik Lewis, though, is also coming off a great win over a guy that was 15-3. But if you do look at this guy, Marcos Vinicius' record, he lost since then against the guy that isn't the same level of Malik Lewis, in my opinion. And his record's a little bit padded. So it's a pretty padded 15-3 record, but it was a good win for Malik Lewis, and it definitely is a good win coming into this fight, because Trevor Peek, man, this guy's got some of the craziest KO power I've seen, man. Like, this guy just lands on you and backs people up. He landed 1 or 2 punches on David Robbins, and David Robbins did not want to be in there anymore. Like, David Robbins had enough of it. He wasn't having a bar of it after he landed one more, and it's quite funny, that fight was actually taking place in a bar. And then he knocked out Warren Smith pretty early into the fight, knocked out Worthy in his debut at 155. He's got 1 no contest on his record, and I don't know why that was. I tried looking into it. I genuinely don't know why it was a no contest, but he did have an amateur record as well, went 5-2. Malik Lewis also had an amateur record where he went 7-0 undefeated, and he wasn't beating the worst guys in the world. He took on a guy that's 10-9 in amateur, not the greatest record, but he was 2-0 at the time. Good experience. And then after that, he kind of moved up, was 6-0, took on a guy 6-1 amateur. Good for him, and now he's built up his record. Not against the greatest guys in the world, but he was 2-0 when he fought a guy that was 1-8, you know, like, you can excuse that. And then he took on a guy that was 4-2 when he's 3-0, and then he's just jumped in there against a guy that was 15-3 when he was 4-0, which is cool. And I like that win over Marcos Vinicius, because what it showed me is that Malik Lewis is willing to wrestle and willing to grapple if he needs to. And that's how he wins the fight, in my opinion. I am picking Malik Lewis. No one's picking Malik Lewis. 15% on Tapology are picking Malik Lewis. Trevor Peek is definitely going to be like one of the more hyped up guys coming into the Contender Series this week. It isn't the most stacked card in the world, but I feel like Trevor Peek's name definitely holds some sort of value, considering he did just knock out Worthy, as I said. But on my notes here, yeah, as I said, Trevor Peek's got crazy heavy hands, and he does throw a lot of leg kicks as well. He threw a couple of leg kicks over David Robbins before he set up the KO, and that fight only lasted 30 seconds, but he did throw good leg kicks. But his cardio maybe could be interesting, because all of his first wins are in the first round. I don't know how he's going to look in the second and third, but I do trust that he looks very in shape. He looks very good, looks very professional. So I do trust that he's going to look fine. But Malik Lewis is a guy that's going to wrestle, man, and I like that. I really like that out of Malik Lewis in this matchup, man. If he wants to win the fight against Trevor Peek, he really does have to wrestle, and that's what he's going to do. That's what I'm trusting him to do anyway. I think Malik Lewis, very early on into the fight, he's going to shoot for a takedown. And the thing with Malik Lewis is, when he shoots for a takedown, he doesn't give up for it. He spent the entire first round against Marcos Vinicius trying to get a takedown over on him. It was clinched up against the cage. It was pretty boring, but he was working enough to where the ref couldn't separate it, because he was throwing knees. He was doing this and that. At times, Vinicius was reversing him, and he ended up kind of getting back into his dominant position, looking for a takedown. And he kind of did it the same in the second round. He ended up on bottom at one point, and then he got the submission from bottom. But he did show to me that he's willing to wrestle if he needs to, and I thought I like that. I really like that in the matchup. I like the size as well. He's 6 foot. Trevor Peek is 5'9", but it hasn't slowed down Trevor Peek at all in the past. As I said, he fought at 180 pounds at one point, which is awesome. But I do think that we're going to see Malik Lewis win this fight. I think Trevor Peek is definitely the better striker, in my opinion. I think that on the feet, I'm going to be sweating watching this fight because I think Peek's got a very good chance at knocking him out. But I think if Malik Lewis wants to win this fight, he's going to have to grapple Peek, and I think that's what he's going to do, or at least I'm trusting him to do that. So I'm going to be going with Malik Lewis here, and because it's Dana White's Contender Series, I'm gonna pick a submission. I think he's going to get a finish at some point in the fight. So give me Malik Lewis to win this fight, man. It's tough. It is tough, but I like Lewis. I like his skill set. I like his size. I like his wrestling. I like the fight IQ as well. Like, he's gonna. I think I can trust him to wrestle here, so I'm going to be picking him to win by his wrestling. That was a long breakdown for one fight. I apologize, but this is one I was so stuck on because I looked at it and I was like, man, Trevor Peek has got to win this fight, man. And then I started watching the tape, and my mind kind of changed. It's a tough one. It's probably the only tough one left we've got on the card. There's 2 real tough ones for me, and after that we should be smooth sailing. So let's move on to the next fight.